Right now, while you're reading this, your brain is making a calculation. Should it keep focusing on these words, or should it switch to something easier, something that feels better? This same calculation happens thousands of times every single day. When you sit down to study, your brain runs the numbers. When you think about going to the gym, it calculates again. When you consider working on that project you've been avoiding, the calculator comes out once more. And most of the time, the answer your brain gives you is the same. Do the easy thing. Choose comfort. Pick pleasure. But what if that calculator is broken? What if the reason you can't stick to anything difficult has nothing to do with your character, your willpower, or your motivation? What if your brain has simply been rewired to crave the wrong things, and you just never realized it was happening? There's a tiny region deep in your brain, a cluster of neurons called the nucleus accumbens. You've probably never heard of it, but it controls more of your life than you think. This little piece of brain tissue decides what you want, what you avoid, and what you're willing to work for. It runs on a chemical messenger called dopamine, and dopamine is not what most people believe it is. For years, people called it the pleasure molecule, the happiness chemical. But that's not accurate. Dopamine doesn't make you feel good when you get something. It makes you want something before you get it. It's the anticipation chemical, the craving molecule. When you're about to eat your favorite food, dopamine spikes. When you're scrolling and expecting to see something interesting on the next swipe, dopamine floods your system. When you're playing a game and you're about to level up or win a match, dopamine is racing through your brain. This chemical is what pulls you forward, what makes you take action, what gives you that feeling of drive. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe to help us grow and spread knowledge to others. Now let's dive into the hidden blueprint that's been running your life. Scientists discovered just how powerful dopamine is through some disturbing experiments with rats. Researchers placed electrodes in the brains of these rats and connected them to a lever. Every time the rat pressed the lever, the electrode would stimulate the reward center of its brain, releasing a surge of dopamine. The rats became obsessed. They would press that lever hundreds, thousands of times. They ignored food even when they were starving. They refused to sleep. They stopped mating. All they wanted was to press that lever one more time. They would keep going until their bodies gave out from exhaustion. Then the scientists reversed the experiment. They blocked dopamine from being released in the rats' brains. The result was equally extreme, but in the opposite direction. The rats became completely unmotivated. They wouldn't get up to eat or drink. If you placed food directly in their mouths, they would chew and swallow it. They could still experience pleasure, but they had zero drive to go get it themselves. Without dopamine, they had no will to do anything at all. You might think those are just extreme lab experiments with no connection to real life. But every single day, millions of people are experiencing something similar. Your brain decides what's worth doing based on how much dopamine it expects to receive. High dopamine expected? You feel motivated, energized, ready to act. Low dopamine expected? The task feels boring, pointless, not worth the effort. And right now, in this moment of human history, we're surrounded by activities that flood our brains with dopamine in ways that nature never intended. Social media platforms are designed by teams of engineers whose entire job is to maximize the dopamine you get from using their apps. Video games release carefully calculated dopamine hits at precise intervals to keep you playing. Fast food is engineered to trigger the exact combination of taste receptors that release the most dopamine. Even online shopping, gambling, and endless video content all work the same way. They hack into your brain's reward system and flood it with dopamine. Your ancient brain, the one that evolved over millions of years, was designed for a different world. In that world, dopamine was released when you found food after searching for it, when you accomplished something difficult, when you solved a problem that helped your survival. Dopamine was meant to reward effort, persistence, and meaningful achievement. But now, you can get massive dopamine hits without any effort at all. You can lie in bed, scroll through your phone, and get more dopamine in 10 minutes than your ancestors would have gotten in an entire day of hunting, gathering, and building. And your brain is paying a terrible price for this. When your brain gets flooded with dopamine regularly, something happens that most people don't know about. Your brain adapts. It has to, because your body has a biological principle called homeostasis. Your body always tries to maintain balance. When it's too hot, you sweat to cool down. When it's too cold, you shiver to warm up. Your body wants to stay at a stable temperature. The same principle applies to dopamine. When your brain is constantly flooded with high levels of dopamine, it tries to balance things out. It does this through a process called downregulation. Your dopamine receptors, the parts of your neurons that receive the dopamine signal, start to decrease in number. It's like your brain is turning down the volume. The same amount of dopamine that used to make you feel excited and motivated now barely registers. You've developed tolerance, just like someone who drinks alcohol regularly needs more and more to feel the same effect. This is why someone who spends hours every day on social media, playing video games, or watching short videos often feels completely unmotivated to do anything that requires real effort. It's not a character flaw. It's not laziness. Their dopamine receptors have been downregulated so much that normal activities don't release enough dopamine to feel rewarding anymore. A book that might have captivated them before now feels impossibly boring after just a few pages. A workout that once gave them energy now feels like torture. Working on a meaningful project feels like walking through mud. Their brain has been recalibrated, and now only high-intensity, zero-effort activities feel worth doing. Everything else feels like a punishment. Dr. Anna Lembke, a psychiatrist at Stanford University who studies addiction, explains this as the brain's pleasure-pain balance. When you get a dopamine spike, you experience pleasure, but immediately after, your brain tips in the opposite direction to restore balance. You feel a small amount of pain or discomfort. If you keep chasing the next dopamine hit before the balance is restored, you end up in a cycle where you need more and more stimulation just to feel normal. You're not even getting pleasure anymore. You're just avoiding the discomfort of withdrawal. This is exactly what happens with drug addiction, but it's also what happens with behavioral addictions to phones, games, and social media. The neural pathways in your brain are constantly being shaped by what you do. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. Every time you choose to scroll instead of read, you strengthen the neural pathway for scrolling and weaken the pathway for reading. Every time you pick up your phone when you're bored instead of sitting with the boredom, you train your brain to fear boredom and crave stimulation. Every time you choose the easy dopamine hit over the difficult task, you're literally rewiring your brain to prefer ease over effort. You're becoming, day by day, someone who cannot tolerate difficulty. Not because you're weak, but because you've trained your brain this way. But the beautiful part about neuroplasticity is that it works in both directions. What has been broken can be fixed. What has been wired can be rewired. Your brain is not permanently damaged. Your dopamine receptors can upregulate again. Your tolerance can reset. You can restore your brain's ability to find satisfaction in normal, healthy activities. You can retrain yourself to crave discipline instead of distraction. The process to do this is what people call a dopamine detox. And despite the name, you're not actually detoxing dopamine itself. You're removing the artificial, super-stimulating sources of it so your brain can recalibrate to normal levels. Imagine your dopamine system like a stereo that's been turned up to maximum volume for months or years. At that volume, normal music sounds like silence. A dopamine detox is turning that volume back down to a normal level so that regular music sounds good again. When you remove the overwhelming sources of easy dopamine, your brain is forced to adjust. Those dopamine receptors that were downregulated start to become more sensitive again. They upregulate. Activities that seemed pointless and boring before suddenly start to feel engaging. The satisfaction of finishing a task registers in your brain. The calm feeling after exercise feels good. The sense of accomplishment from focused work becomes rewarding. You're not becoming a different person. You're returning to your natural baseline, the way your brain was meant to function before it got hijacked. Most people who try this fail, and they fail for a predictable reason. They try to force it through willpower alone. They grit their teeth and try to resist the urge to check their phone, to play games, to scroll. But willpower is a limited resource. it runs out. And when you're fighting against a brain that's screaming for dopamine, willpower is not enough. What you need instead is to understand what's actually happening during the transition. For the first few days after you cut out your high dopamine activities, you're going to feel terrible. You'll feel restless, irritable, anxious, maybe even depressed. This is not a sign that something is wrong. This is withdrawal. Your brain has adapted to a certain level of stimulation, and now you're taking it away. The discomfort you feel is actually proof that the process is working. Your brain is reorganizing itself. The problem is that most people interpret this discomfort as a sign that they're doing something wrong, so they give up right before the breakthrough happens. Here's what you need to do practically. First, identify your highest dopamine activities. Not the things you enjoy the most, but the things that give you the most stimulation for the least effort. For most people, this is their smartphone, specifically social media, short videos, or mobile games. But it could also be junk food, online shopping, or other instant gratification activities. Whatever gives you intense stimulation with almost no effort, that's your target. You don't have to eliminate these things forever. You just need to eliminate them temporarily while your brain resets. Choose a time frame. 3 days is the minimum. 7 days is better. 14 days is transformative. During this period, you're creating scarcity for easy dopamine, which forces your brain to find satisfaction in more difficult activities. But you can't just remove things and leave a void. Your brain hates emptiness, and it will do anything to fill it. You need to deliberately replace high dopamine activities with slower, more sustainable ones. Read a physical book instead of scrolling. Cook a real meal instead of ordering food. Go for a walk without headphones instead of watching videos. Exercise without music playing. Write in a journal by hand. Have face-to-face conversations. These activities will feel boring at first because your dopamine system is still tuned to expect high intensity. But this is where the magic happens. As you persist, your brain starts to learn that these activities also lead to rewards. After a few days of reading, your brain begins to release dopamine when you pick up a book because it anticipates the satisfaction of learning. After a week of workouts, your brain starts to crave the endorphin rush and the feeling of accomplishment. You're literally retraining your reward system to prefer different things. There's a crucial difference between pleasure and satisfaction that most people never think about. Pleasure is immediate and it fades quickly. It comes from external sources and requires zero effort. Satisfaction is delayed and it lasts much longer. It comes from internal accomplishment and requires effort. Modern life drowns us in pleasure, but starves us of satisfaction. That's why you can spend an entire day being entertained, consuming content, feeling stimulated, and still go to bed feeling empty and unfulfilled. Your brain got pleasure, but it got no satisfaction. A dopamine detox shifts your focus from chasing pleasure to building satisfaction. And here's something that surprises people. Satisfaction actually produces more dopamine over time than pleasure does. When you push through something difficult, when you resist the urge to quit and come out the other side, your brain releases a powerful cocktail of neurochemicals, including dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. This is what athletes call the runner's high. It's what creators experience after hours of deep, focused work. It's the profound sense of contentment that comes from discipline, and it's far more powerful and longer-lasting than any notification or video could ever be. The neuroscience supports this completely. Research shows that delayed gratification activates your prefrontal cortex, the most advanced part of your brain, responsible for planning, decision-making, and self-control. Every time you practice delaying gratification, you strengthen the neural pathways in this region. Meanwhile, instant gratification activates more primitive parts of your brain, the limbic system, which operates on pure impulse and emotion. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're literally strengthening the advanced part of your brain and weakening the primitive part. You're upgrading your mental operating system. Over time, this changes your default setting. Discipline stops feeling like a constant battle and starts feeling like your natural state. After a proper detox period, you'll notice changes that might surprise you. Your attention span will expand dramatically. Things that used to bore you within minutes will hold your interest for an hour or more. You'll experience a clarity of thought that's been missing for a long time. Ideas will flow more easily. You'll make decisions faster because you're not constantly seeking external validation. You'll have more physical energy because you're not riding a constant roller coaster of dopamine spikes and crashes. Most surprisingly, you'll start feeling genuine excitement about things that used to feel like chores. That project you've been avoiding, you'll actually want to work on it. That workout, you'll look forward to it. This isn't some fake positive thinking. This is your brain functioning the way it was designed to, before algorithms took control of it. But here's the part nobody wants to hear. This isn't a one-time fix. Your brain will always drift back toward easy rewards if you let it. That's not a flaw in the system. That's just how brains work. The key is building systems and environments that make discipline the path of least resistance instead of distraction. This is where environmental design becomes critical. If your phone sits on your nightstand, you'll check it first thing every morning. If healthy food is already prepared and visible in your fridge, you'll eat it. If your workout clothes are laid out the night before, you'll actually work out. You cannot rely on willpower when your environment is working against you every single day. Design your life so that dopamine-rich activities require extra effort to access, and satisfaction-rich activities are effortless to begin. Delete the social media apps from your phone so you'd have to reinstall them to use them. Use website blockers on your computer during work hours. Put your phone in a different room when you need to focus. Make junk food inconvenient by not keeping it in your house, and make healthy food convenient by prepping it in advance. Every single barrier you place between yourself and distraction is a vote for the person you're trying to become. There's also a social dimension to this that people overlook. The people around you constantly influence your dopamine baseline without you realizing it. If everyone in your life is scrolling, binging content, and seeking instant gratification all the time, you'll be pulled in that direction by social pressure and mirroring. But if you surround yourself with people who value focus, discipline, and deep work, their habits become contagious. This doesn't mean you need to abandon your friends. It means being intentional about who you spend your time with and what you do together. Seek out communities that reinforce the behaviors you want to develop. Find people who are on the same journey. Your brain is shaped not just by your own actions, but by the actions of the people around you. Now let's address the obvious concern. Some of you are thinking, this sounds miserable. Why would anyone want to make life harder? And that's the trap right there. You're thinking about it from the perspective of someone whose brain has already been hijacked. From where you're standing right now, discipline does seem harder than distraction. But from the other side, from the perspective of someone with a recalibrated brain, discipline actually feels easier than distraction. Because distraction leaves you feeling empty, anxious, and behind on everything important. Discipline leaves you feeling accomplished, confident, and in control of your life. Which path is actually harder? Spending your days endlessly chasing dopamine hits that never truly satisfy you, always feeling like something is missing? Or building a life where the effort itself becomes rewarding, where you go to bed each night feeling proud of what you did? The path that seems easiest in the short term is actually the path of most resistance in the long term. Constant distraction is easy moment to moment, but it makes your entire life harder. Discipline is hard moment to moment, but it makes your entire life easier. This whole process is really about reclaiming control over your own mind. Right now, if you're completely honest with yourself, you're probably not in control. Your phone controls when you feel bored. Algorithms control what you think about and how long you think about it. Apps control how you spend your free time and your attention. That's not freedom. That's not choice. That's being controlled. True freedom is having a brain that works for you instead of against you. It's being able to choose difficult things and genuinely enjoy doing them. It's waking up excited about your work instead of dreading it. It's going to bed satisfied with your day instead of guilty about wasted time. The rewiring process never truly ends, because every single moment you're either reinforcing discipline or reinforcing distraction. Every choice is moving you in one direction or the other. But after you've reset your dopamine system properly, the choices become noticeably easier. The pull toward distraction weakens significantly. The pull toward meaningful work strengthens. You develop what psychologists call intrinsic motivation, where you do things because they're satisfying in themselves, not because you're chasing some external reward. This is the highest form of discipline. It's not forced, it's not exhausting, it's natural. It becomes who you are at your core. Dr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who pioneered research on flow states, discovered that people are happiest when they're fully absorbed in challenging activities that match their skill level. Not when they're relaxing, not when they're being entertained, but when they're stretching themselves in meaningful ways. The problem is that most people never experience this anymore, because their brains have been trained to avoid anything challenging. They've lost access to the deepest source of human satisfaction. A dopamine detox gives you back that access. So here's what I want you to actually do, not just think about doing. Right now, make one concrete decision. What is the single biggest source of empty dopamine in your life? Identify it clearly. Then commit to removing it completely for the next 7 days. Not forever, just 7 days. During those 7 days, pay close attention to what happens. Notice the restlessness when it appears. Notice when it peaks and feels most intense. Notice when it starts to fade. Notice what naturally fills the empty space. Notice how your relationship with effort and difficulty begins to shift. Document what you observe, because once you experience your brain rewiring itself in real time, once you feel that shift from avoidance to engagement, you'll never want to go back to the old way. You'll realize something profound. You weren't meant to live as a slave to algorithms and impulses. You weren't designed to spend your life avoiding discomfort and chasing pleasure. You were meant to be someone who does hard things and finds joy in doing them. That version of you already exists. It's not some fantasy. It's who you naturally are underneath all the conditioning and dopamine hijacking. The path to becoming that person again starts with a single choice: to step away from the noise, to let your brain breathe, and to trust that temporary discomfort leads to permanent transformation. If this video helped you see the hidden forces shaping your life, give it a like and share it with someone ready for this journey. Subscribe for more content exploring the depths of psychology and the path to authentic living. Your brain is ready. It wants to be rewired. It's waiting for you to give it permission. The only real question left is whether you're ready to do it.